Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We just got done talking about the Xfinity US Gymnastics Championships, where Simone Biles placed first. And now we are going to be diving into the Softball World Series. We're going to be doing some game recaps and predictions. So there is a game tonight, so we'll be doing the predictions on the game tonight. The game tonight is actually taking place right now, supposedly. We'll get into that. I'll talk about that later. We have a lot to get through on this, so I'm just going to dive right into Game 5 so we can just, get started and make sure we have time to talk about all this. So in Game 5, I don't know why I just said it like that. That was a weird pattern I had in my voice. That was really weird. Okay, in Game 5, Alabama and Duke went head-to-head, and I thought this game was going to be close and that Alabama would come in and top. I was correct. Yay! I'm really happy for Alabama because they came into the World Series as sort of the underdogs, and by beating Duke, they show that maybe their seed at 14th wasn't the right place for them. The final score was 2-1. Alabama showed up strong from the start of the first inning. They got their first point then, and then Duke caught up in the second inning, making the score a tie at 1-1. Till the fifth inning, it was pretty uneventful. Both teams got either 1 or 0 hits when they were on offense, so there just wasn't much luck for either side. During the sixth inning, Alabama got their second point, and Duke just was not able to secure another point and ended up losing. It was a disappointing loss for Duke, but a great game for Alabama. Kalea Cahalan and Marley Gills got the runs for Alabama, and a goal got the run for Duke. Alabama's pitchers just did a lot better than Duke's pitcher, who was Cassidy Curd. Curd didn't get any strikeouts, but Jocelyn Brisky and Kayla Beaver were able to get a total of 5 strikeouts for Alabama. Having the both of them benefited the team since they were able to switch out after getting tired and such. During Friday's video, where I talked about my predictions in this game, I specified that I think Alabama has the advantage here of having Brisky pitch, since it will help out Beaver a lot, and also just having another amazing pitcher is always going to do more good than harm. Typically, this was a really good game for Brisky. She's a freshman, so I'm happy that she was able to have a performance like this at her first World Series. Moving on to Game 6, Stanford crushed Oklahoma State 8-0. I did not think this game was going to be such a blowout. Stanford pitchers Jerry Kennedy was an absolute beast, like always. She had a total of 7 strikeouts, and most of her pitches were so perfectly on target and controlled, yet strong and fast. In my opinion, she is one of the best pitchers in the league. On the other side, Lexi Kilfoyle and Ivy Rosenberry pitched for OSU, and they did very well combined, but I think that what really helped Stanford was their defense, given that they have such a good pitcher, and then also Stanford was really strong offensively. Danny Hayes, Kylan Cooch, and Jade Berry, River Marlier, Ava Gal, and Caitlin Lim each had 1 run, and then Aiken Ashera had 2 runs. Gal and Lim both had a home run. Stanford just really dominated the game, and I didn't really realize how insanely good they would do against OSU. It makes sense, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't think the score was going to go up that high. So, really good game for Stanford. Now, moving on to Game 7, this was probably one of the best, most interesting games of the series yet. The University of Oklahoma, what even is that? Oklahoma beat UCLA 1-0. Kelly Maxwell was nearly untouchable for Oklahoma, allowing just 2 hits and striking out 11 batters over a full 7 innings. UCLA had chances, including a threat in the 3rd inning with 2 runners on base and no one out, but those opportunities were largely self-inflicted by Maxwell between walks and hit batters. She never let the Bruins take advantage, and UCLA's offense wasn't able to gather any momentum in the late innings despite needing just 1 run to extend the game. The heart of UCLA's lineup was shut down in the loss, with Maya Brady and Charlize Palacios finishing a combined 0 for 7. This game was a really good way to predict how the game today would have gone with University of Oklahoma. I did not think it was going to be this close, so it'll make sense why I'm saying that. Okay, next game here is which was also on Saturday, Florida v UT Austin game, where UT absolutely crushed Florida with a score of 10-0. A 5-run first inning set the tone for the top-seeded Longhorns. Keegan Rothrock drew the start again for the Gators after a stellar outing on Thursdays against OSU. However, she just didn't last long on Saturday as the Gators coach Tim Walton removed her after 14 pitches once Texas went up 2-0, and then Ava Brown silenced Texas' lethal lineup across the second and third innings until the fourth, when the Gators freshman pitcher found herself in trouble with 2 outs. The Longhorns put another 5 spot on Florida in the inning, coming off 2 home runs and a single. The Gators struggled offensively all night against Longhorns pitcher Mac Morgan, who took a no-hitter into the 5th inning. Katie Keisler broke up the no-hitter with the Gators' first hit of the night as she singled into right field to lead off the inning. In conclusion here, if you only have time to watch highlights of the entire game, I kind of recommend choosing this game to watch if you're interested in seeing a lot of scoring and really good hits, because this game clearly had it. So now let's talk about Game 9 from Sunday, Alabama beat Florida. The final score was 6-4 with Florida winning. Alabama made a move to bring in a new pitcher, Alia Johnson, who had to face star Florida slugger Jocelyn Erickson in the top of the 6th. Erickson cranked the 1-1 pitch to straightaway center for a 3-run homer, pushing Florida's lead up to 2-6. Florida's lead 2-6, my bad. The Gators surrendered a pair of runs in the bottom half, but Keegan Rothrock pitched a 1-2-3 7th, capping off a complete game and delivering the 6-4 win for Florida, which kept their season alive, which also sends the Gators to the semifinals of the World Series. This game really marked a turnaround for the past 2 World Series for Florida. Florida mustered only 1 run and 3 hits over the first 2 games in Oklahoma City, as the offense was largely stymied by Oklahoma State and UT Austin. The Gators had 4 hits and 2 runs through the first 3 innings of the game, scoring the first run on an RBI single to right center to tie the game at 1-1. A fielder's choice then gave Florida the lead, but then a walk to hit her? Did I say hit her or hit her? That was so weird. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm losing my mind. But then a walk to hit her, Lauren Johnson, and a bunt single to Kristen White gave Alabama a pair of runners on with no one out. 2 batters left. Marley Gills drove a base hit over the middle to tie the game back at 2. Alabama brought in a new pitcher, Jocelyn Brisky, to face the Heart of Florida lineup in the top of the 5th. That Gator stretch gave her a rude welcome as Corb Otis reached on a single. Erickson walked and Regan Walsh drove a hit up the middle to give Florida the 3-2 lead. Erickson's 3-run homer the next inning gave the Gators all the comfort room they needed to hold on, and then Florida would now advance to face number 2 Oklahoma, the winners of each of the past 3 national championships in the semifinals, which took place today. So they technically would have to go 2-0 to advance to the College World Series finals. I'm very confused on how all of that works. And if I did have the time to explain it, I would. But they would technically have to beat Oklahoma University 2 times, technically. Something like that. It's very confusing, but basically just know that they now, after this win at Alabama, they have the stress of now having to go against University of Oklahoma, who had won 3 world championships already. So now, moving on to Game 10, which also took place yesterday. Stanford beat UCLA in a final score of 3-1. The Bruins struck first with a Megan Grant Solar homer in the second, but the bats were quiet immediately after. Stanford took the lead in the third with Taryn Kern's double and Ava Gau's single, each of which scored a run. Stanford added to its lead in the 5th when Emily Jones had 2 hits and 2 runs that scored. Once again, Najeri Kennedy, Stanford's star pitcher, was as efficient as she could be in her 7th straight game. She allowed just 4 hits and 1 run while striking out 8 batters. To advance to the finals, Stanford has to defeat Texas twice, which takes place tonight. And I'm going to be giving my predictions for that game at the end of this segment. So the last recap is from the game today, and this one was the best game to watch, okay? Now, this has a high score too, so you know what, if you like high scores, this is interesting for you too as well. Okay, oh my gosh, this was such a shocker. Florida and Oklahoma went head-to-head, and Florida beat Oklahoma in the final score of 9-2. The OU softball team's 20-game win streak in the WCWS, or World Series, came to a crashing end here. Keegan Rothrock worked around a little bit of trouble, but the Florida ace finished up a complete game victory to set up a rematch. In the end of the 6th inning, Keaston Deal retired the first 2 batters before giving way to Carly Kenny, who got a strikeout to finish off OU's first scoreless inning in the day. Just based on records, this was really bad for Oklahoma to lose this game. They had won 3 World Series, and they lost their chance to make it 4th with this loss. But on the brighter side, now the finals is going to be so much more interesting, considering that there might be another team in here. So, I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Bad thing for Oklahoma, but great thing for Florida. I am not very much like, how do I say this? I am very much rooting for certain teams. But Florida and Oklahoma, okay, I'm not like particularly rooting for any of these 2 teams, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not like in favor for either. Like, I would like to see both of them there at the finals, if that was possible. So that's what I'm saying. But also at the same time, like, I would like to see University of Oklahoma win their 4th time in a row. Like, that would be insane for them to do that. But also I like to see Florida as sort of the underdogs in this matchup. Come out on top when Oklahoma could have won their 4th time. So I don't know, very interesting. Anyway, let's move on for recaps and talk about predictions here. The next game is UT Austin and Stanford, and to reach this championship series, you have to win this game. This game is taking place right now, but I have not looked at the scores or anything, so I'm truly making an honest prediction here, and I hope this isn't embarrassing if I am just completely wrong. So I apologize. Also, yeah, I believe this game is at 7:30 or 7 p.m. Eastern time. So, oh wait, maybe it should be over by now. I don't know. The thing with softball games is you never know how long they are going to take, I feel like. And also, there was some delaying in some games, so I'm just like not trusting the times anymore for those. But I have not checked the scores or anything, so I want to make that clear. Anyway, UT Austin will once again have to face Stanford, which means they will face Kennedy, who literally was a huge threat to the Longhorn team at the opener last week. So let's take a look at this matchup. Once again, Texas has looked every bit the top-seeded team in the tournament while beating Stanford and Florida by a combined score of 14-0. After freshman Tegan Cabin shut out Stanford 4-0 in the opener Thursday, Mac Morton followed with a one-hit gem against Florida in a game shortened to 5 innings by the mercy rule. In 3 starts in the NCAA tournament, Morgan has 3 wins and has allowed a total of 6 hits and 2 runs over 17 and a third innings. I was like about to sneeze in the middle of that. I'm so sorry. Cabin will likely get to start against Stanford, even though Texas coach Mike White won't let his players know the start until Monday. Well, at the time when I was making this, Monday, he wasn't supposed to let them know until the beginning of the game, if that makes sense. I'm so sorry. This is like confusing to explain on predictions when the game is literally happening right now. But like, just pretend the game is happening at like 10 p.m. today or something, so it makes sense why I'm talking about it, I guess. I don't know. In her World Series debut, Cabin allowed just 1 hit while striking out 8 Stanford batters and improved to 19-2 on the season. So they have that advantage there. Stanford has a mediocre offense that ranks in the lower half of most Pac-12 offensive categories all season, but Kennedy herself makes Stanford a contender. Kennedy has entered the World Series leading in strikeouts and ERA, and in the 3 World Series games Stanford has played so far, she has only allowed 12 hits and 5 runs in 19 total innings. That's insane. So having Kennedy really gives Stanford a chance against UT Austin, but I don't think they will come out with a win. I think Texas will win this game if they can go out super strong offensively and defensively. If they struggle on either side, I think it's going to be such a close matchup. But I do think that they're going to come out on top. Now, we're going to move on to our next segment where we talk about the results from the CrossFit semifinals in the North America East region. Before we get into that, we are going to be taking a very short break, so I will see you guys very soon.